Hello, guys, gals, and non-binary pals. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Today I'm going to be talking about my thoughts on season two of The Last of Us. Just watched the first episode, and I have Bryce with me, of course, because who else to
Yay.
who else do I have on this channel besides him?
Spaghetti.
So we just finished episode one, and so it's called Future Days, and they didn't even play it, which makes me mad because that's my favorite song now. Um, and I don't get how you're gonna name an episode Future Days and then not even play it in the episode, but what do I know, I guess. Um, we got introduced to Abby, who's Caitlin Dever, who I love, by the way, because anyone that knows me knows one of my favorite musicals is Dear Evan Hansen, and in the movie version of the musical, she plays Connor's sister. So I love her. Um, don't love the character she's playing, but that's kind of the point of the of having her. Um, yes, we got introduced to her, and yeah, so far it's not terrible, but I do kind of think it's mimicking the game a bit like too much. Like they're not really adding creativity into it, at least in my opinion. Um, Bryce, I don't know if you have opinions.
Yeah, I was gonna wait till you're finished.
Oh, okay. Um, what else do I want to say? Um, yeah, we got introduced to Dina, and I like that she kind of, or she didn't kind of, she went to Joel and was like, "Yo, what's wrong? Like, why is Ellie mad at you?" Which she didn't say Ellie's name, but it's implied that it's Ellie, which we didn't get in the game. And I should probably say you guys probably know this if you've seen or if you've played the game, but season two is based off of part two, so The Last of Us Part Two. From what I've heard, and I don't know if this is like 100% true, but season two is half of The Last of Us Part Two, and then see there's going to be a season three, and that's supposed to be the other half of Part Two. I don't know, we'll see. Um, yeah, they announced Part Three yesterday before season two even aired, so it's like, okay, what are you doing? But so that was interesting that they just went ahead and announced it. Um, I do like that. One thing that I forgot to mention in my season one episode was um Joel mentioned to Ellie at the end about him losing Sarah and how it made him not want to be here anymore, basically. Um and so now he's in therapy in season two, which is nice to see that it's kind of being normalized for like men to have mental health concerns and to get help and that it's a normal thing. And I like that because I'm all for, mental health advocacy and all that. Um, that's pretty much my thoughts on the first episode.
Oh, you're great. Yeah, we paused like halfway through, and I just gave like a little bit of a commentary of like I feel like the show is a fan fiction parody of the original, and maybe even parody is the wrong word, but it's like not like it feels like a fan fiction adaptation of the game that um going it feels like going into it you're supposed to already have the knowledge of the games, and I'm just like I'm curious like how are people gonna follow this, but maybe that's just my first impressions and maybe they'll pull it off somehow. um, it's interesting that they're changing the order of some things where the dance was at the very end of the game in part two, and they just put it at the beginning, including the part where like Seth comes up and calls them slurs, and then Joel gets involved, and it's like, whoa, like it's so bizarre that like so if I'm a brand new viewer and I don't so spoilers. So if I don't already know that Ellie knows that Joel lied to her because he eventually told the truth, I right now I'm just thinking that Ellie is a fucking asshole, and I like don't understand. Oh, hold on. Um, does this sound better?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna do this then. Um, that yeah, it just seems like Ellie's a fucking asshole for just being like, I don't need your fucking help, Joel. And it's like, what the hell? Um, so, maybe they changed up enough things to where Joel doesn't have to admit to Ellie that he lied. But, like, we know from the trailer that that event happens at some point. We could maybe it happens slightly after this in the next episode. But I still feel like we're gonna figure out that because no, Ellie figures out because she goes all the way back to the hospital. So like, can't do that in the next episode before Joel dies. So yeah, so Ellie and Joel already had that conversation for sure. Um, yeah, I feel more confused as an audience member that doesn't already know what's happening. Um, in part, oh, and also Abby, we already know who she is and why she wants to get Joel, and that wasn't the case in the game. It was just this unknown girl. She's after somebody. You didn't even know if it was Joel, and you didn't even know she was after Joel. Uh, Literally until she shot his leg with a shotgun. You didn't like you didn't know for sure until that moment happened. Um, and so now it's like you already know someone's after her. After him. You already know she is after him. So that's going to change of the dynamic.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's going to be in a good way or a bad way. Um, I do like the therapy thing. I'm just confused on like how therapist, the storyline of like I hate you for killing my husband and I can never get over that. I'm curious how that's going to loop all together. Um,
Yeah.
maybe just in like a theme sense, but I'm like, that's, that's
And I
not
mean,
really
at the end
comforting.
of the first episode, they're at the dance, and it's after, Joel interferes after Seth says the slur, and um Ellie, blows up at him, and the therapist is there, and you see her kind of smile a little bit. So I don't know if that's gonna come into play anywhere, but yeah.
Hmm. Now, from the second game, we know that right after the dance, um, Ellie confronts Joel and says, I was supposed to die in that hospital. My life would have fucking mattered, and you took that from me. And Joel says, if somehow the Lord were to give me a second chance in that moment, I would do it all over again.
Hmm.
And she's like, I don't think I could ever forgive you for that, but I'd like to try. That moment happens literally at the very end of the game before Ellie like puts the guitar down and walks off into the sunset, and then the credits roll. So like that's like the last thing we see in the game. So if because they didn't show that scene, they just showed Joel hanging out on his porch with the guitar, setting up that scene, and then Ellie like walks by him. So like we know eventually she comes back to have that conversation, but I guess we're just not going to see that until the end of season fucking 3. So okay then. Um, so what else? Um, oh yeah, in the game, you were not supposed to know that Ellie was super upset at Joel. In the game, it was set up that she was being a little bit more distant to Joel, and that was kind of like the trailer explanation as to why he
Hmm.
wasn't super present in the rest of the game. Was just that like Ellie has become more distant with Joel because she just feels uncomfortable about her just feeling that he's being sus, and that Joel eventually does come back, which we know does not happen. But like that was the setup for the game. And so anytime that Ellie was talking about Joel, um, it was like people like, hey, we're a little worried about you and Joel. And Ellie's like, we're fine. Things
Hmm.
are, yeah, like we're fine. Joel and I are going to have a movie night. We're good. And like that's Ellie's response to everybody. So it's like, okay, so there seems like there was some distance, and um, we don't know what is going on, but it seems like it's not that big of a deal. And it seems like they're kind of mending it. So we didn't think too much about it. But like in this one, it was just so blatant. Like Ellie's just fucking hatred of Joel. It's like, dude, Ellie's our main character. We're supposed to, you know, fucking like her. Um, and she's just being a dick. And it's definitely a different approach
Hmm.
than the way the game did it. So I know people like Angry Joe are gonna also do a review of each episode individually, and they're gonna give it a rating. And it's like, well, you know, this isn't the complete project; it's just one slice of it. And so, even rating it without understanding the whole context of the season feels inappropriate. And honestly, since they're splitting up one game into 2 seasons, even if we finish this season, I still don't think it would be an appropriate thing to even rate the entire season without knowing the ending. But that being said, we could just give like our off cart of like what we think of the episode,
Hmm.
just based off of that. I'm intrigued on where the storyline is going. I have confidence that they're gonna make it all loop and have it make sense. So, oh boy.